Hello everyone, good morning. Today we start with social studies and we start with our 8th chapter, that is natural resources. Natural resources, that is those resources that we obtain from nature. So let's start with the chapter. First of all, let's know what's the meaning of resource. Resource means something that can be used for a particular purpose or to satisfy your need. For example, tools and materials are termed as resources. But when are they termed as resources? If they are used by people to satisfy their needs and wants. For example, the books of 10th standard is a resource for you as it is satisfying your need. But the same 10th standard book was not a resource for you when you were in 7th, 8th or 9th standard or maybe before that. So accordingly, we can term resource as those elements of nature which satisfies partially or completely our needs. Now there are thousands of elements in nature, but all can't be called as resource because we don't use all of them to satisfy our need. Reason may be different why we don't use all of them. Some maybe are not required by us to satisfy a resource, so we don't use it. Some are not used maybe because we don't have knowledge of how to use them, or maybe we don't have enough skill to use them. So only those elements of nature that we use to satisfy our needs are called as resource. Now, these elements can be called resource only if they are used by us by making the best use of our special knowledge and expertise. Expertise means a skill in a particular field. In other words, the things on which we are dependent, human needs can be fulfilled only by them. And man has physical and intellectual capacity to use them can be called as resource. That is, for example, we are dependent on say some crop, say wheat, to live our life. Now human needs can be fulfilled only when we have that physical capacity or intellectual capacity or that knowledge, expertise, etc. of how to use the resource. Here not to use but how to grow the crop. We should have that capacity. And then when we grow the crops, then wheat becomes a resource. At the same time, the soil, fertilizers, etc. also becomes a resource for us because they were helpful to us in growing the crops. In this way, anything which is used to fulfill human needs becomes a resource. For example, a person who is an industrialist, for him, soil is not a resource because he is not using soil or fertilizer to manufacture machinery. Similarly, some such elements may not be a resource for a farmer because they are not used by him while farming. So I think so it's clear to you what do you mean by resource. The simple example I gave you about your 10th standard books. In ancient times, men didn't know about the minerals buried within the land. So these were not the resource at that time. But today, these are extremely useful due to their utility, that is use, and the developed techniques of mining. Now once again, let me give you an example over here that in Africa, coal that was found in ancient time. The people of Africa were so ignorant about it that they just thought that it may be some useless thing and they kicked it off. They didn't make use of it. But then when the Europeans entered, they found that it was a source of energy. They could earn a lot. They can develop a lot by making use of that coal. So that time it became a resource. But before that, when the people of that country didn't know what it was, It was just lying there. So it was of no use. So it was not termed as resource. And again, we should have complete knowledge of how to use it. We should also have developed techniques of mining and many other techniques and all we should have. Then only an element can become a resource for us. The natural resources should have both the virtues, that is qualities over here. And what are these two qualities that the natural resource should possess? First is utility. That is, any resource in the nature should be first of all of some use to us. And second, capability to work. And the resources are made of the interaction between three things, that is nature, man and culture. So very important objectives over here will be, first of all, what do you mean by resource? Second, which are the two virtues of the natural resources? Now let's move ahead with the second part of it. Uses of resource. Very important, your 3 marker, which starts from here. You have to study it perfectly and put it down in your SS homework book. At least write it 2 times. It's very important. Uses of resources. Resources are useful to us in many ways. We learn about its role step by step, that is gradually, slowly, at each and every step of our human life. So, how important resources are to us, we learn at every stage of our life. All activities from agriculture to big industries, they all finally, that is ultimately, depend on natural resource. No thing on this planet Earth is being manufactured without making use of nature. So let's know about it in detail. Resource, first of all, as food. Various food requirements of human being are satisfied, that is complied by various resources. So our requirements are satisfied by various resources. First one we are studying about here is resource as food. Fruits grown naturally, crops that are obtained through agriculture, milk and milk products, and meat that are obtained through domestic animals, fish and other aquatic animals from reservoirs, that is pond, lake, etc. Honey that is prepared by honeybees. All these are used as food products. So resources are used as food also. Second, resource as a source of raw material. That is, raw material means any such thing which we don't directly use it for satisfying our needs, but it is converted through various processes into a finished product. Then it becomes a complete product to be used. But initially we make use of raw material as a resource. Various goods that we get from forest, that is wood, herbal plants, etc. Agro product, that is agricultural products. Wool, hides, that is skin of an animal. Meat, all these things are available from animals, mineral ores, etc. They are raw material for many industries. That is, for example, say fruits that we get, they are raw material, but then finally when it reaches to the juice production industries, it becomes a resource for them. It's a raw material for these industries. Third is resource as energy resource. We use coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. as fuel in industries as well as domestic fuel. Domestic fuel, you can take example of, say, wood is used in villages for fuel. Besides, energy can also be generated through sunlight, that is solar insolation as explained below. Then we can also create energy through wind, sea waves, tides, ebbs and waterfall, etc. Let me explain over here. Solar insolation means how much sunlight is shining down on the earth. So, uses of resources on this slide, once again, as food, as a source of raw material and as energy resources. Now let's move ahead. This table over here, for your easy understanding, is shown that there are two resources. One is natural, the other is human. Now what do you mean by natural resources? We have already done. That resource that we obtain from nature. As we move ahead in this chapter, we'll be doing the other subparts of it, that is renewable, non-renewable, biotic, abiotic, etc. Whereas human resource, that is we ourselves also a human resource, that is the structures and institution that we have created, that's a resource because it satisfies the needs of various people. Then the quantity and quality of the population of the country. What is the quality of the people of our country, like literacy, health-wise, intellectuality, hardworking, etc. If we have all this thing, then we would work a lot and develop our country, and so then we become the resource for developing our country. So it was just a short explanation over here what is a resource and its subparts. Next, types of resources. Resources are classified as follows. Very important once again for a 3-marker, learn it perfectly. Resources are classified as follows. One is on the basis of ownership, that is who is owning that resource. One is on the basis of re-availability. Re-availability means whether you are going to get it again after using it once or it is totally destroyed after we use it one time. And third, on the basis of where is it distributed in the country or in the world itself. Following are the 3 types of resources on the basis of ownership. So first let's take 3 types of resources on the basis of only ownership. One is individual resource. This resource is owned by an individual or a family. For example, your personal laptop, I can't just grab it away and say that is mine. It's your resource, your family resource is a private resource. For example, like land, building, etc. Second is national resource, that is one that is owned by a country or a particular region or area. For example, army, international trade. Third is world resource, that is global resource. That is all physical or non-physical resource which are used for human welfare, like you can say UNESCO, UNICEF and many other things which are used by all over the world for the welfare of the people of the world. So resources of common ownership of all nations of the world are termed as global resource. We move ahead. Now resources can also be classified as follows on the basis of their distribution. First is universal resource. Universal resource means the one that is found in the universe. Useful gases in the atmosphere like oxygen, nitrogen. This is universal resource. You can't say it's my oxygen. Yes, oxygen cylinder you may buy and then keep it in your house if it's useful to someone who is not well. There you can say that an oxygen cylinder that you have bought is your personal resource, individual resource. But oxygen, nitrogen, etc., these useful gases are universal resource. You can't say that this oxygen is of India or of England or China and all. Second is generally available resources, which are easily available, like land, soil, water, pasture land. Pasture land, that is grazing area for the cattle. Rare resources. Rare means only at limited places they are available. You can't see gold everywhere wherever you move around on the road. You can't find petroleum everywhere. So these are some rare resources. So they are very costly at the same time. Minerals like coal, petroleum, copper, gold, uranium, etc. are rare resources. Solitary, that is minerals that are available only at 1 or 2 places in the world. That is, say, chrolite, which is available only and only in Greenland. So, this video will be followed by the second part of this chapter. Till then, go through the video, learn all the objectives and the question answers that I told you, 3 marker, which are very important. And the table itself will be useful to you for your 1 marker. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. This is the second part of this lesson 8 of SS, Natural Resources. In the first video, we had seen what do you mean by resource and its classification on various bases. In this part, we are continuing with the classification but by some other methods. That is, resources can be classified by other methods also, wherein this can be classified into 2 types, that is renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable resource means the one that can reproduce itself over time and again. Whereas non-renewable resource means once used, you can't use it then. That is, it gets exhausted. You can't reproduce. Now, renewable resource example, we can take sun's energy, wind energy, etc. Whereas non-renewable resource, we can take the example of petrol, diesel, etc. So some resources, they reproduce themselves as per their usage during a specific time. In other words, they are inexhaustible. And like solar insolation, that is sun energy, wind, birds, animals, bioresources. These are some renewable resource and they don't get exhausted. Whereas non-renewable resources are those which cannot be reused once they are used by us, or they cannot be reproduced or cannot be reformed in near future, like mineral, coal, natural gas, liquid petroleum, etc. are included in this category. Now, liquid petroleum gas or liquefied petroleum gas is a flammable mixture of hydrocarbon gases used as fuel in heating appliances, cooking equipments and vehicle. Let's move on the next part. Planning and conservation of resources. Now, when do you conserve some resource? When you have that thing in scarcity. For example, a very simple example of our house itself, that we, maybe not all of us, but many of us, we waste water on daily basis. We take a full glass of water, whereas our thirst is equal to only half a glass. So the other half a glass, we just splash it out. So this is called waste of water. Now, we know that the flow of water is for 24 hours in a house. So we don't pay attention towards its planning and conserving. But the moment, say for example, if the watchman of a society comes and gives the notice that for few hours the water supply is going to be stopped due to some technical reason, in that case, just see the chaos created in the house. Like there will be order passed by your mother to fill in the buckets and to fill in the big vessels so that you will be in safer mood. There will be no scarcity for the next few hours. So you start collecting it. So here we are going to deal with how to plan and conserve the resource. Human needs are unlimited, while the resources to fulfill our needs are very limited. During last 100 years, use of all these resources have increased very much. Now, which are the 2 reasons? Learn it perfectly. The 2 reasons why in the last 100 years the use of the resources have increased is, first, extraordinary development in science and technology, and second is due to overpopulation, or you can call it population explosion. Very bad impact or effect, that is implication, will have to be experienced by us in future if we don't give a serious thought to this matter. So it is a duty of all of us to take care to see that we conserve the resource for the future generation, as we can't be selfish. Resources should be conserved and should be used rationally. Rationally means very carefully, properly. Now the word conservation is directly connected to scarcity of resource. Here one more example you can take. Like you don't have 2 to 3 years to complete your 10th syllabus. Yes, of course it depends on you how long you want to continue your 10th standard. But technically you have got just 1 year before you give your final exams. So that 1 year period is a limited time period, and you know that we keep on wasting that time rather than making the best use of it. But now that there are only few months remaining for your final exam and lots of work to be done, just see the speed that with which you will be planning out your timetable. That is, now the time is in scarcity. So your time is resource. It is limited. Whereas the work to be done is on a large scale. The work that is to be completed in this short time period is very much. So now comes the point that this is the stage where we start planning out how to make the best use of that limited time that we have to get the best result. I think you have understood this very clearly, so you can put it to use today and not after a few months. Start planning out today itself. If the resources are exploited at current rate, that is at today's rate, where they are exploited very carelessly, that is haphazardly, and irrationally, that is in an improper manner or unreasonable manner, then it will be just a dream for us to maintain the development and live today's lifestyle. It includes things like its proper use, conservation, and reuse of the used resource. For example, water once used can be, I think so, reused. For example, your aquaguard water, that is some extra water that flows out every time through the pipe, that we can reuse. That is called planning and conservation of resource. When there is a danger of existence on a life of a tree or human life, the arrangement made for it is called is conservation. So now learn over here what is the meaning of conservation and understand the meaning that I have given over here properly. Next, let us understand about how to plan and conserve the resources in detail. So here comes your 2 marker. First of all, gather about the availability of used, unused and possible resources of a particular region or country as a unit. Gather means collect the information about the availability of used, unused and possible resources of a region. Second, resources which are limited or non-renewable, they should be used. Over here the word exploited means you can take it as used. So this non-renewable or scarce resources should be used scientifically and should be used only when it is necessary to use them. Third, attempts should be made to develop those resources, the quantity of which we can increase. So we should try to develop a substitute for those resources which are inexhaustible. Once again, we have to make attempt to develop a substitute for non-renewable resource. And for example, over here you can take say coal. Coal is exhaustible. Now a substitute that we have found out in place of coal to create energy is wind energy. We are using water energy, sun energy, etc. So these are some attempts that we have to make so that the exhaustible resources could be preserved for the next generation. Now, the resources which are cheaper and are easily available should not be wasted, like water. But instead, they should be used very sparingly, that is, carefully for our future use. We move ahead. Those resources which are in limited quantity should be conserved, as we have already seen earlier. Finding a substitute, that is alternative option, through technical development is favorable in long term. So if we start using a substitute for the non-renewable resource, then it will be very advantageous for us in long term. Next point, necessary laws should be framed for the conservation of resources and should be enforced strictly. It means government will have to pass strict rules, that is laws, for the conservation of scarce resources. And this law should be carried out strictly. Government will have to see that people follow it very properly. And the last point, citizens should be well acquainted. Well acquainted means they should have knowledge with all the facts connected with the careful use of resources. And a public awareness should be created. That is, all the citizens should have the knowledge about how to use the resources, how to make the proper use of all this exhaustible resources, and even inexhaustible resources, like if we take your water, it should be taken care of. Reuse it if required. And public awareness should be created. So go through the meanings as given over here. Now next important topic and your 3-marker short note covers soil formation. Very important. And 1 marker, that is definition of soil. Generally, the part of the surface of the earth where we grow vegetables, crops, etc. is called soil. Learn it. Now, a detailed short note. The soil is a thin layer composed of various elements on the surface of the earth. Various things are included while the soil is being formed. Minerals are a part of it. Humidity means water vapor in the air. Then humus, that is the organic component of soil, which is formed by the decomposition of leaves and other plant material by soil microorganism. You need not learn the definition of humus, but it's important that you should know what is humidity and humus and remnants and all, so that learning of this short note becomes easy for you. So minerals, humidity, humus and air are mixed up in it. The parental rock means the original rock, lies below the soil. Soil is formed due to the material that is available through denudation. Denudation is a process of breaking of the rocks. Biotic remnants, humidity, air, all these things gets mixed up with it. In other words, in a very simple way, if I would explain, soil is a natural mixture of minerals, humidity, humus and air, which have the capacity to grow and develop vegetation. So you need to read it over and over again. Learn the short note and the above points for their individual answers. And we move ahead in the next video with this chapter. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the third part of the 8th chapter of SS, that is natural resources. And in the previous video, the last part was we were talking about soil, and I told you that it is to be learned as your short note. So here the short note is continued, and the answer will be very important for you to go through as for your 3 marker. The uppermost layer of the earth's crust is called soil, 1 marker, which contains dash and dash elements, that is minerals and biotic elements, which are very important if we want to grow and develop vegetation. So first of all, what is soil? You have to learn. Second, which two things are very important for the growth of any vegetation? And that is minerals and biotic elements are very important. Now, although their proportion is not the same everywhere, the soil is a layer or the surface of the matter formed due to the mixture of scattered material of the parental rock, that is the original rock or main rock, and vegetation. So the proportion of minerals, biotic elements, etc. which are required for vegetation growth may not be same all over the country. Their proportion may be different in different parts of the country, and thus somewhere we find alluvial soil, somewhere we have black soil, and different types of soil is found. And the layer or the surface of the matter which is formed because of the mixture of the main rock getting scattered, we get soil. It is when the main or original rock passes through the system of denudation, that is breaking. Many other things gets added up to it, like water and humus and many other things, and finally after thousands of years we get a thin layer of soil. Now factors of denudation prepares a very thin layer through the breaking of rocks. Humus formed due to the disintegration or decay of vegetation or insects is added to it. That is, naturally it gets added, we don't go and add it. So humus we did in the previous video. What do you mean by it? That is the decay part of the vegetation or insects. It gets added to these pieces of rocks. These biotic elements play a great role in the development of vegetation. Now second, the climatic impact in this time period of soil formation also is very important and widespread. And it is so important that the soil formed of different types of rocks in that region over a long period of time is the same. So what is very important when a soil is in its formation procedure? First, as we saw, parental rock gets disintegrated. Second, humus is added to it. Third, the climate of that region plays a great role in the formation of soil. And so the soil formed out of the same parental rocks under different climatic condition or influence is different. Let me explain the second paragraph. Pay attention, very important. Now see, the climatic impact is very important and widespread. That the soil that is formed out of different parental rocks or types of rocks in a particular region over a long period of time is the same. That is, if parental rocks are different, say in Ahmedabad, just take for example, we have in one region different parental rocks, that is different types of rocks, but the climate is same. Then the soil that will be formed over a long period of time will be same. But the soil formed out of the same parental rock, and if the climate of that region is different, then the soil will be different. So everything depends upon more on climate of that region for the formation of soil. Soils are classified on the basis of, learn it, color, climate, the main rock or parental rock, structure of that region, humus, etc. So these are various things that are required, and it at the end all this thing together makes soil. Now we move on to the next slide. Now this is what I have tried to explain in very simple way how soil is formed, this part is not a part which is available in your textbook, but it's just from my end. I have tried to explain you in a simple way. So just go through it. Soil is the thin layer of material that is covering the earth's surface and is formed from the breaking of rocks. So how is soil formed? Due to breaking of rocks, first step. It is made up of mainly of mineral particles, organic materials, air, water and living organism, all of which interact with each other slowly yet continuously, that is constantly. Second point, most plants get their nutrients from the soil and they are the main source of food for human beings, animals and birds. So from where do we get food? That is from plants. And plants get their nutrients from where? That is soil. Therefore, most living things on land depends on soil for their life or for their existence. And third point, soil is a valuable resource which needs to be carefully taken care of because it gets easily damaged, washed away or blown away, which is termed as soil erosion, that is destruction of soil. And there are many reasons how soil gets destroyed, which we'll see in the next part. Now, if we understand soil and try to take care of it properly, we will avoid destroying one of the most important building blocks, that is the base or the pillar of our environment, and the most important thing that is required as for a food security. We will be able to save it. Next, factors affecting soil formation. Now, this is also an extra knowledge that is provided to you so that this chapter becomes easier for you, because you have to learn the short note of soil, very important, as I'll be providing the answers to you after this lesson gets over. As of the first two videos, as I have provided you worksheets after the videos, and that includes the question answers and objectives. Similarly, after this video also, answers will be provided to you, but in between some important and very easy form of soil formation I'll be explaining. So this is also not a part of your textbook, but for your better understanding I have added it over here. Soils form continuously but slowly from the gradual breakdown of rocks through weathering. Weathering means when something gets destroyed gradually. Now, weathering can be physical, chemical or biological. Now, what is physical weathering? Breaking down of rocks due to mechanical action. Now, what is this mechanical action? That is when temperature changes and when rocks, they collide with each other, collide matlab takrana, or frost can all lead to the breaking of rocks. So all these things can be considered as mechanical action. Second is chemical weathering. Now, breaking of rocks through the change in their chemical makeup. This can happen when the minerals within the rocks, they start reacting with water, air or other chemicals. You call it chemical weathering. And the third is biological weathering, the breakdown of rocks by living things. That is like burrowing animals. Burrowing animals means which has their home below the land, like rabbit, or you can call like snake. They don't live on land. Yes, rabbit do live, but we say that it's rabbit's burrow. It's a burrow, that is a part or a house of some creatures below the earth. So burrowing animals help water and air get into the rock, and plant roots can grow into the cracks in the rock, making it break. The accumulation of material through the action of water, wind, gravity also contributes or adds up to the soil formation. So once again, this is a very simple informatory part that I have written over here. You need not learn by heart this part. You just go through it so that soil formation answer becomes easier for you. Thus, this processes can be very slow, taking maybe many tens of thousands of years, you can say lakhs of years. Five main interacting factors affecting the formation of soil. First is parental rock, that is, or parental material, that's mineral forming the basis of soil, and topography and living organism, climate, interaction between these factors and the time period. So all these things play a great role in the formation of soil. Next, types of soil. Now, up till now we have already seen in detail how is soil formed. Let's move ahead with the types of soil. Recently, ICAR, learn the full form for your 1 marker. Indian Council of Agricultural Research has divided the soil of India into 8 types. Of this, the mountain soil and forest soil are found at different height, that is altitude, in mountainous region. So there are 8 types of soil. Learn it. Alluvial soil, red soil, black soil, laterite soil, desert soil, mountain soil, forest soil, and 8th is marshy or peaty soil. Now let's move ahead with the discussion of this soil. And in this video, we'll be doing only the first type of soil, that is alluvial soil. And there is also a map provided to you. 2 maps will be provided here. You may pick up any one that you find it easy, but just go through it so that you come to know how the soil is distributed and which particular state of our country has which type of soil in more quantity. So the next slide. Alluvial soil. This type of soil is spread over about 43% of the total area of India. So that's your objective, 43%, very important. So 43% of our total land area of India has alluvial soil. This soil is found in the northern plain from Brahmaputra Valley in the east till Satluj in the west, and in the delta regions of Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri rivers. The formation of alluvial soil is due to the alluvial deposition by the rivers. Now what is alluvial deposition? It was in detail already done in 9th standard. So here let me just tell you in short that the ever-flowing rivers of Himalayan region, some lakhs of years back, when they started flowing from the top of the mountain, and when they were coming down, they carried along with them lots of deposition, and when they came on the flat region, they slowed down. When they were coming from the top of the mountain, the flow was very speedy. So they carried lots of material on the way along with them. It could be the sand and stones and the dead part of plants, animals, etc. And when they came on the flatter region, they slowed down, and the bank of these rivers had the most fertile soil, because this things that it carried from the top of the mountain got deposited in these rivers, making this river's bank very fertile. So the formation of the alluvial soil is due to the alluvial deposition by the rivers. There is more proportion of learned, potash, phosphoric acid and limestone in this soil, and less proportion of nitrogen and humus in this soil. If the crops of pulses is grown in this soil, nitrogen content can be stabilized. That is, you will see that in order to stabilize nitrogen content we need to grow pulses in this soil. Crops like wheat, paddy, sugarcane, jute, cotton, maize, oilseeds, etc. can be grown in this soil. Now let's go through the map that follows here. The first map, this is of your textbook, which shows as per the color on the right hand side box near Sri Lanka map. You can see that small box over there, which shows you various colors. Like the last one, the blue color shows desert soil, and that's in Rajasthan. And then there is forest soil, which you can take to the north of India, that's Jammu Kashmir area, or you can go to the your right hand side top, that is northeast it is called. Some part is brown shown over there, that is forest soil. And accordingly, but before this, I would request you to go through the state map of our country. Do it perfectly. Keep on practicing on blank map as many times as you can, because there will be 1 4-marker in board exam asked as only for map filling. And if you don't know the states filling up in your map of India, you are not going to score 4 on 4. So that will be in detail done with you when we meet in class. But till then or before that, 28 states, you are going to fill up, keep on practicing, at least at present only the states. Then we will move ahead and I'll tell you which 6 cities you are going to learn and jot it down or put it down on your map. Now the next one also is a map but not of your textbook. So I think so it may be easier for you. So for this, as states are not written, so it's very important for you first of all to know that which state is located in which particular part of this map of India. So here once again, instead of brown, here green is provided as a color for forest and mountainous soil. Then white is provided for arid region, that is Rajasthan desert region. And then the pink one shows you red and yellow soil. And then there is alluvial soil, different color. For black soil, they have provided you a different color shade. So go through this video, go through the extra information provided to you in between and learn the answers perfectly. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the 8th chapter of SS, that is natural resources, and this is a 4th part. In the 3rd part, we had done about what is soil and its formation in detail and about the 2 maps that I had shown you. In this 4th part, we are going to move ahead with the different types of soil. That is, one we had done alluvial soil in 3rd part of the video. Here we continue with the other types of soil. So the second is red soil. Red soil occupies about 19% of the total land area of our country. So 19% your objective. And this type of soil is spread from Tamil Nadu in the southern India, that is peninsular India. Peninsular India you must be knowing. South of India, 3 sides that is covered with water. So this type of soil is spread from Tamil Nadu in South India till Bundelkhand in north. Bundelkhand is a part of UP and MP. And this soil also is spread from Rajmahal Hills in the east up to Kutch in the west. Now Kutch, you know where it is located, and Rajmahal Hills are in Jharkhand. Now such soil is found in the district of Udaipur, Chittorgarh, that's in Rajasthan, Dungarpur, Banaskantha, Bhilwara. These are all a part of Rajasthan state. So you can find it in Rajasthan also. The soil is red in color due to the presence of ferric oxide. Now ferric oxide, you can also term it as iron oxide, and it is the inorganic compound with the formula given below, that is Fe2O3. Now As we move ahead, let's see that this soil, which is red in color due to ferric oxide, now it becomes yellow in color as you go down. Down, that is below the earth's crust. Lime, gravel and carbonate are not found in this soil. Gravel, that is small stones and pebbles, they are not found in this type of soil. There is a deficiency. Deficiency means insufficiency. So there is deficiency of lime, magnesium, phosphate, nitrogen and potash in this soil. Crops like millet, that is bajra, cotton, wheat, jowar, linseed, that is they are the seeds of the flax plant, groundnut, potato, etc. are grown in this soil. So learn this as your 2 marker. Next type of soil, that is black soil. Very important for your 2 marker again. Black soil also is called as Regur soil. Learn it. Also learn 15%. So black or Regur soil covers about 15% of the total land area of our country. This soil was formed due to the spreading of Deccan lava. That is, this type of soil was formed due to the volcanic eruption. Such soil is found in entire Maharashtra, Western MP, Andhra Pradesh and some parts of Karnataka. In Gujarat, we get this type of soil in Surat, Bharuch, Narmada, Baroda, Tapi and Dang districts. Now, lava rocks and climate play very important role in the formation of such soil. So very important, which are the 2 important things that plays a great role in the formation of black soil or Regur soil? So these 2 things are lava rocks and climate. There is more proportion of iron, lime, calcium, potash, aluminium, magnesium, carbonates in this type of soil. This type of soil is said to be very fertile soil, and this soil also has the capacity to retain moisture. Retain means to hold water within it. Whenever the moisture dries up, that is when it is summer, this water or moisture in the soil dries up and thus the land is seen as you can see in the pic given. That is, they develop cracks, that is fissures. Crops like cotton, linseed, as I told you in the previous slide, then mustard, that is rye, groundnut, sing, tobacco and urad dal are grown in this type of soil. But more so, it is good for groundnut, cotton and tobacco. And as it is more suitable to cotton, this soil is also called as cotton soil. So what is the other name given to black soil? That is Regur and cotton soil. Why cotton soil it is given the name? Because this type of soil is more suitable for the growth of cotton. Again, what percentage of the total area of our country is covered with black or Regur soil? That's 15%. And which are the 2 important things that plays great role in the formation of such soil? That is lava rocks and climate. So learn it. Now we move on to the next type of soil. That's laterite soil. The name of this soil is laterite and it is derived from the Latin word later. Later, which means not afterwards, but here later means a brick. It's red in color. Here also it is because of the presence of iron oxide. Now when this soil becomes wet, it becomes smooth like butter. That is your Amul butter. Not when it is kept in fridge, but when you keep it outside in the normal temperature. It's too smooth. So this soil is compared to like as smooth as butter. But when it becomes dry, the same soil becomes very hard. It is formed due to the change of dry and moist climate and due to the prevention of silica based material. So once again, what's the reason for the change in this type of soil? That is, this type of soil is formed due to dry and moist climate and due to the prevention of silica-based material. Now this soil has developed in the higher region of peninsular plateau of our country. The soil contains more of LNT, iron, potash and aluminium. And the soil is less fertile, but cotton, rice, that is paddy, ragi, sugarcane, tea, coffee, cashew, that is kaju, etc. can be grown after using fertilizers, that is chemical fertilizers. Move ahead to the next part. Fifth is desert soil. That is, we have seen in the previous slide about the map, and I showed you over there the desert soil in Rajasthan, that is more so. This type of soil is seen in the area where the climate is arid or semi-arid. Arid means dry. So those areas which experiences dry or semi-dry climate, they have desert soil. This type of soil is sandy and infertile, that is not fertile. It contains more dissolved minerals. Rajasthan, Haryana, southern Punjab have desert soil. In Gujarat, this type of soil is found in Kutch and some parts of Saurashtra. With irrigation facilities, however, crops like millet and jowar can be cultivated in desert soil. Sixth type of soil is mountain soil. We did in the map that it's in North India, that's Jammu Kashmir, and somewhere in Northeast also we had seen mountainous soil. Now this type of soil is found in the valley region and slopy regions of Himalayas at the height of about 2700 to 3000 meters. Learn it. Its layer is very thin and is not completely developed. So you can't grow good quality crops over here because the soil is not fully developed. This soil is found in Assam, that's Northeast, Darjeeling, Uttarakhand, Himachal and Kashmir. In Himalayas, soil is found at a general height in the regions where we see pine and ched trees. And move ahead to the seventh type of soil, that is forest soil. Now this type of soil is found at the height of 3000 to 3100 meters in the coniferous forest of Himalayas and in Sahyadri region and in Eastern Ghat and Terai region of Himalayas. Terai region, that is dense forest area. And coniferous forest of Himalayas means you are done in 9th standard about this type of forest, that is those forests which are conical in shape. And now the surface of the earth is covered by shaded leaves, not shaded. It's wrong spelling in the textbook. It is shaded, that is S-H-E-D, that is the fallen leaves of the trees. So the surface of the earth is covered by the leaves of the trees that falls down, and the upper part of the land becomes black due to the increase in the humus caused due to this decaying leaves. So when the leaves fall down on the ground, they start decaying, and when they decay, slowly and slowly we see that these leaves turn black due to increase in humus, and finally forest soil is formed. It changes into blue or red color as you go down within the land. Besides tea, coffee, spices, other crops also can be grown in this type of soil, and these crops are wheat, maize, barley, paddy, etc. The soil is found in limited area only. Now the meaning over here of humus, the organic component of soil formed by the decomposition of leaves and other plant material by soil microorganisms. Now we stop over here in this part of the video, and in the next part and the last part, that is the fifth part, of the chapter 8th video, we will continue with the 8th type of soil and some other topics like how to conserve the soil. Thank you so much. In this part of the video, that is the 5th and the last part of video of chapter 8 of SS, that's natural resources, we are going to discuss about one type of soil that is left over, that is marshy or peaty soil, and about the preservation of soil, methods, how to preserve and conserve soil. So let's see what does the 8th type of soil tell us. Marshy or peaty soil. This type of soil develops in humid region, that is that region which has more of humidity, due to the collection or accumulation of biotic elements. During rainy season, this land is submerged underwater. Submerged matlab डूबा हुआ, underwater, and when the water recedes, that is goes back, paddy, that is rice, can be grown in it. There is more of biotic elements and minerals in such soil, but there is less of phosphate and potash in it. Such soil is mostly found in Odisha, that is Orissa, West Bengal, coastal Tamil Nadu, central area of North Bihar, and in Almora district of Uttarakhand. The soil has very limited extent, means it is found in very few regions of our country. We move ahead to the next topic, and that is soil erosion. Now, first of all, what is erosion? Erosion means, learn it, the transportation of land particles from one place to another due to moving air and water. That is due to blowing of the wind and due to the movement of the water, that is heavy rainfall and all. We see that the topmost part of our earth, that is the soil, gets dragged away from one place to another, thus making the land non-fertile for vegetation. In other words, the faster transportation of the particles of the surface land to other place by natural forces is called erosion. Now there are many reasons for soil erosion, natural as well as human. Natural reasons we have seen here, moving air and water, but human activity also leads to soil erosion, that is making more and more use of land for grazing, that is overgrazing, also leads to soil erosion. Then deforestation also leads to soil erosion. Deforestation means cutting down of trees. And as we have seen, it takes tens and thousands of years to form the upper layer, that is to form soil. If the soil particles are carried away because of heavy rain or by stormy wind, the production in agriculture of that region decreases. It is extremely very important to maintain or preserve this upper layer for agriculture. So we have to see that soil erosion should be prevented. Next, measures to prevent soil erosion. Now what we can do to not stop but at least slow down soil erosion? First, control the grazing activity on land. Grazing activity मतलब घास खिलाने जब कैटल को ले जाते हैं, that activity is called grazing activity. So that should be controlled or lessened. Second, plantation should be carried out in counter method in slopy region. Counter method or counter farming means the practice of tilling the slopy land. Tilling, you must be knowing, when you till the land, when you plow the land, it is called tilling of the land. So counter farming is called as a practice to plow the land, but it should be slopy region. Third is plant trees in fallow land. Now what is fallow land? It is a land that a farmer plows but does not cultivate for one or more reasons. to allow the field to become more fertile again. The practice of leaving fields fallow, that is not making use of it for cultivation. This dates back, means it is or it was ancient time system when farmers realized that using soil over and over again may reduce its nutrient. So they used to leave the land as it is for 1 or 2 years or 1 or 2 seasons and then once again start growing. So that land was termed as, and even today it is known as, fallow field. So start growing trees in fallow land. Don't leave it barren. Next, construct check dams. Check dam means a small, sometime you can call it a temporary dam that is constructed across a swale, drainage ditch, that is across a stream or a ditch, matlab khadda, or waterways to counter erosion by or to control the erosion by reducing the water flow speed. So in short, check dam means is a very small temporary dam constructed to stop the soil from getting eroded by the heavy rush of the water. By constructing this small dam, the heavy flow of the water or the speed of the water will slow down, which in turn will prevent soil erosion. And the next is cultivate very deeply in the field so that it can slow down the speed of the movement of the water. The next part, soil conservation. How will you take care of the soil? How will you conserve it? Soil conservation means to prevent the erosion of soil and to maintain its quality. Soil conservation is directly connected to retain, that is maintain or hold the soil particles in their original place. Different system or ways or remedies are used at different places in the world according to its location and problems. If the soil is not conserved, then there are chances of flood which will enhance, that is increase the risk against lives and property. The soil conservation is very important. As I told you, enhances means increases. So it's very important that we conserve soil, otherwise it will bring problem in the life of people as well as our property also will be put to risk. Next is remedies of soil conservation, very important, learn it for a 3 marker. So when you start your any answer, say this particular answer, remedies of soil conservation, when asked for 2 marker, just write as it is. But if at all it is asked for, say 3 marker, then write 3 to 4 points related to soil introduction, like what is soil and there are how many types of soil, just in short, and then start remedies of soil conservation as your main answer. So the length also is very important over here as per the marks denoted. If it is 2 marker, it is usually about 8 to 9 points that you are going to write. But when it moves on to 3 marker, it should be about 13-14 points, and still furthermore, if 4 marker, that's in detail, you need 2 sides of a page to be covered. And this all you will see in the answers that I keep on providing you after the video is sent to you. So let's start with remedies of soil conservation. What we should do to conserve soil. The roots of the forest cover hold up the soil particles. So instead of deforestation, we should carry out afforestation. Deforestation means destroying the forest, cutting down of more and more trees in the forest, which will loosen up the soil particle. Instead of that, for preventing soil erosion or to conserve the soil, we have to grow more trees so that the roots of these trees can hold the soil particles. Second, plant trees in the river gorges and on mountain slopes. Third, a series of trees should be grown near a desert region to prevent the winds with more speed. It will stop the advancing desert. So if there are no trees grown, these trees could be any that we can grow in the desert region. So if we don't have trees in the desert region, due to movement of or due to the blowing of the wind at a great speed, the sand will be carried to the other region which is actually fertile, but due to the settlement of this desert sand on it, it becomes non-fertile. So we have to grow many trees near the desert region so that it can stop the desert advancing and we can conserve the soil of the other areas. Next is the river flood should be controlled by diverting the flow of that in other rivers or in dry river beds. So by diverting the flow of the river to other dry river beds, we can control the flood, because flood is also one of the reasons that leads to destruction of soil. Then the next point is, as we have done before, cattle grazing related. The unrestricted means without control. The unrestricted pasturing, that is cattle grazing, loosens the soil layer on the mountain, and this we have to prevent. Next is methods like horizontal cultivation. You know what is horizontal and vertical. So here we have to carry out horizontal cultivation. Then there is terrace farming, which should be carried out. And the last point related to remedies of soil conservation is humus content should be added to the soil, which has lots of fertility. By implementing this above suggested remedies, we can conserve the soil. And the not conversation is wrongly given in your textbook, is conservation of soil is a strong necessity of today. Government, society and people should work hand in hand, that is together, for the conservation of soil, because it is not only the duty of government but more so is the duty of the citizen of a country to see that we together put in an effort to conserve the soil, because it will save the life of the living beings on the planet. And after this video, a worksheet will be following, and go through it so that you will be ready for your lesson 8 test on Monday. We have shifted the test from Sunday to Monday, and few informations also will be followed, or you will be getting it on WhatsApp tomorrow. So please be in touch with us, and once again feel free to give me a call or WhatsApp, any method that you choose which is comfortable to you. We will be at your service. Thank you so much.